Hi, everybody, and welcome to the RHAP B&B for episode 6 of Survivor 43. My name is Mike Bloom, and as Jesse says, we have phase shifted into the next part of the game. It's the merge. I'm saying merge. We're doing away with all this fluffy, ubiquitous mergatory things. I saw Merge Tribe in the lower third, much like Owen pointed it out. I'm considering it a merge, and we are here to talk about everything that went down. And it was a whole, much like the B&B's cleanliness policy, heap of mess. But very excited to break this all down with a fantastic panel. First, somebody who is always saying BYOB&B to this party. It's Liana
Yes!
Boraas.
What? Yes! Oh my gosh, I was so happy. Yeah, where's the party at? Okay, thanks, Sammy. Look, this episode was it was chaotic. It was sort of the mess that we had been talking about in previous episodes, wanting to see, right? And now we finally get Gabler just throwing out names and seeing how these tribes are coming together. I'm okay with going merge, although I believe the episode title officially was Murgatory though, Mike. So or Murgatory, however you say it. So, I don't know if that's canon, but I trust you.
All right. Well, I'm very excited to welcome this person back in. Of course, 13 days in, people were craving this merge feast because they're feeling a bit frail. But this person would say, "You have become frail. I was born into it." It's the great MaryKwaitkowski. Mary, how are you?
I'm doing great. I was wondering where you were going with that. Like, people have been craving the merge, and Mary, she brings the feast. So I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
where is this going? Gotcha. Yeah. I was thinking about the whole mergatory thing because I saw that was the name of the episode before I watched, and it's been happening more and more over the years. But I think this season, might be the most, at least for non-returnees, the most new player season that references other seasons of Survivor.
Mm.
I mean, it's like not in the same way that like Ghost Island did, where it's like, hey, let me show you literal flashbacks, but like people quoting other survivors and not even mentioning it. There's been a lot of that.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
feel like Owen has really been the one that's front and center. It's interesting because, like, we haven't gotten a lot of Owen content outside from him making comments about things and the editors working with him. I guess glad that that happens because otherwise he'd be purple AF. But yeah, here he's talking about the lower thirds. We have the advantage checklist. I'd be inclined to agree with you, Mary. This might be the most meta new player season that actively does not involve elements from older seasons.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, that's not surprising to me given how many fans we have, right? And this whole push after the pandemic to like get just so many big fans of the show. So like of course, they're on their favorite show that they've been watching for years. Of course, you kind of want to do the references. You want to play ball. So I get it.
Or if you're Cody, you sort of just like, oh yeah, I remember watching this last year.
Yeah, exactly. Look, hey.
Listen, we do not judge any fans, no matter when they may come on during the course of their Survivor fandom. So, Mary, obviously, this is the first time we're having you on this season. You've talked previously in the Academy about your thoughts on Survivor 43 so far. I have made it vocal that I feel like this season has taken definitely a turn in the past couple of weeks compared to maybe how it started. Where do you feel about that, especially culminating in, as Liana said, basically like 5 weeks of buildup in the form of this Baka breakdown?
Yeah, this was like a simmering pot of stew that's boiling over at this point, you know? Like there's been so many videos, so many predictions about what would happen if Baka
Mhm.
went to tribal, what would happen if this tribe went to tribal. And in some ways, it's sad that we didn't get to see those moments
Mm.
happen pre-merge, but now that we've gotten here, it's like, oh, this is what happens when you bring the hot mess into the merge. Like, we've got it. And I had, like, there's been a lot of discord about like, oh, there's this person, they're not seeming very likable, or oh, they're playing a messy game. I'm like, yeah, but at least they're bringing entertainment. Like, this has been one of the most entertaining merge episodes, and one of the most I'm trying to think of like the metaphor. It's like when you had, you don't often get the big tribe group that comes to the merge sort of with some of them attempting to work together, and then the other people being like, you know what, no, our past differences I can forgive, but I cannot forget, and I want everyone else to know what they are. It's like we've almost gone all the way back to OG Survivor, where it was like, oh, make sure you bring the right people to the merge so you don't separate. But in these like really, really small tribe seasons, a lot of times it doesn't matter as much because you know it's going to break down. You've only got 3 or 4 people. But this is like the first time in a long time, I feel like, where it was like, nope, we got to the merge and all hell broke loose.
I feel like also to add to that, because I think that's totally an apt description, is the like it's like the 2 other tribes, right? Coco and Vessi are just like, what is going on? You know, like
Yeah,
they're
what was going on at that
yeah,
beach for
yes,
12
exactly.
days?
It's sort of like watching another couple have a big fight and you're just kind of there watching and like, oh my God, like
Well,
what is going on?
you know what it is to me? It's like watching like the Theranos story where it's like,
Mm.
how were you so successful at this? You know, like that's the thing is I agree with you that and it's a small number, it's 544, but at the same time you're watching Baka
Yeah,
immediately
how do
go
they
for each
win?
other's throats and it's like, wait a minute. You're the ones that have the numbers at this point. You've only been to tribal council once, yet you keep winning somehow. How is this happening? And so you're wondering this idea of like almost failing ass backwards into success. And though immediately they end up sort of self-sabotaging.
Yeah, it's like the other 2 tribes saw behind the curtain and they were
Yeah.
like, "Oh no. Oh, this was happening. Oh no. You put on a good front." I knew a family who was like really good at like they were always hosting parties. They always had these big events at their houses and everyone would go over and be like, "Oh my gosh, they're like everything is so smooth. This is amazing." And one time I went over early to set up and it
Mhm.
was like people yelling at each other, things flying, go crazy. I'm like, this is not what I thought
Yeah.
the behind the scenes was gonna be.
Yeah, this is what it's actually like when you peel
Yeah.
behind that curtain. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, look, it is soup season, so if the pot boileth over, then I'm happy about it. And I thought this episode was so fun.
Not to take it back to my son again, but it just I've been reminded because he comes up with a bunch of like random phrases that I'm not sure what the origin is, and one of them is soup soup. So we'll just be
Yes,
sitting around doing something and go soup soup,
soup soup.
and I'm
Oh,
like,
that's
is that yes? Is that no? Is that I want something? And has the power of speech, obviously. But for some reason, he just pulled out of his vernacular this idea of soup soup, which I'm still not sure what it defines. It could mean everything, as
I
far
think
as we know.
I think
I
it's
like that.
Simlish. Soup soup.
Yeah, that's great. I love the telephone game of how like phrases can also work. I'm sorry, I'm completely branched off at this point,
No,
but
please.
No problem.
I was at a it's a holiday weekend, Halloween weekend, and I was at a party last night, and I was trying to tell someone when we were playing a beverage related game that there was I was like, oh, you don't need to do it that hard. You just a little dab will do ya. And I guess they had never heard that before. I don't know if this is a common phrase or this is just something my
Oh,
mom told me a
I've
lot.
heard it.
Okay,
Yeah,
I've heard,
little
okay,
dabble
great.
I've heard a little dabble do
Because
ya.
at the time they like did not understand what I was saying. They're like, yeah, dabba dabba doo. And I'm like, that's not what I said. Okay.
Flintstone.
So that just started being the phrase they would say throughout the night. I'm like, it's lost all me. That's not what I was saying. It's like,
Oh,
but okay,
now I
all
know
right,
where my
sure.
son went last
Not
night.
even
He was
close.
missing from his bed. I realized that he snuck away to a Halloween party. He's just saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
soup, soup, dabba, dabba, doo."
Yabba dabba doo. Yeah. Oh my God. We have that actually. We have that all the time. My lab is very international. So we've got people from China, people from France, people from Germany. And so, like, phrases also just like everybody's got their own weird phrases. And especially all the like in English, because we speak primarily English in the lab. And I'm like, oh, yeah, none of this makes sense.
Yeah.
I think my favorite are music lyrics. One
Mm.
time when I
Oh,
was a
yeah.
waiter, I worked alongside someone who was originally from Romania, and for years she thought the Bon Jovi song "You Give Love a Bad Name" was "You Look Like a Band-Aid,"
Oh.
which it requires an entire deep dive in and of itself as to like, how does one look like a Band-Aid? Why would you tell someone that they look like a Band-Aid?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is that song about? I wonder. I don't know. Is it like an insult or do you think it's a compliment?
Or if you just replace that last line, like "shot to the heart and you're to blame," you look like a Band-Aid. Incredibly
Seems more like-
insulting.
I mean, I don't know. Shot to the heart. And then it's like you're just a band-aid. You can't
Oh, see, no, this is like a metaphor. It's like you shot me in the heart, and now I look at you like I need you because you're the Band-Aid. You're gonna also
Yes.
then cover up the
No,
shot to the
that
heart.
person needs a little bit of medical. John Bon Jovi needs a bit of medical training. If you realize a Band-Aid's not going to
Just a
fix
band.
bupkis if he gets shot in the heart.
No,
Well,
that's
let's talk
fine.
about the shot to the heart in Ellie's game.
Oh man.
Gabler was looking far from a Band-Aid, despite the fact that he is the heart valve specialist here. This was so good. And look, I know that some people felt when we got that confessional right of Ellie being like, this game's easy. I can't believe I'm doing as well as I am. That you're like, okay, this is happening. But I love these types of episodes. Roger Sexton and Amazon is probably the most prevalent example of it, especially from a merge perspective, right? Of like, it's not even Chekhov's gun. This is an actor stepping out on the gun with stage on the gun, being like, I'm gonna shoot this gun. Look at this gun. I'm gonna shoot it in like 5 minutes. Because essentially the entire episode, I did not believe for a second that Ellie wasn't going home, even during the brief section, right? Of like, oh, will Janine play her idol on her? I just think specifically the lack of James content made me feel like it was going to be Ellie's boot episode. Liana, what did you think about the storytelling aspect, even outside of like how everything fell apart, but just the way this merge episode was told, especially since it really centered around this one person?
Yeah, it's so I have a coworker who's just started watching Survivor, and it's really interesting to hear what she likes about the episodes. This type of editing is like her absolute favorite. She's like, I love seeing when people get their comeuppance when they're so cocky, and then and then they go, and it's just so so enjoyable, and that's something that she like super values. And I think that I think that's fantastic. I think for me, like I don't have that much of an affinity for these types of editing stories. However, I do think that it is fun to have something that has sort of been a cohesive narrative throughout the entire season, which is like, oh, Ellie thinks she's got one up on Gabler. The whole, oh, he doesn't know his idol is still valid. So he thinks he doesn't think his idol's valid. And
Yeah, he thinks his idol is invalid when it
Right.
actually isn't, according
Yes.
to Ellie, when he actually
Exactly.
knows.
Yes, exactly. And so this was sort of just like bubbling under the surface the whole time. And so it was nice to finally see it come to fruition and us to actually see the story that has been building play out in this episode.
I almost feel like if they had I'm trying to decide if this would be a good thing or bad thing because it would make Gabler more purple. But if this was like a novel or a movie, the way it would have been edited would have been we're only getting Ellie and Janine's perspective throughout the first several episodes. We never see the other guys tell Gabler. We never see Gabler go, oh my gosh, how stupid do they think I am? Of course I know how my idol is. We never see that. So we think it's working. And then we get to this episode where it all comes crashing down and Gabler's like, little did they know that the whole time. And then we get the flashbacks of the guys telling him the flashbacks of him. That's how I would like it because it's still the comeuppance story. It's still the like everything. But we were all, as the audience, were like, oh shoot, he knew the whole time. Like we've had times in the past in Survivor where you see someone and you think at the end, like, oh, they're going to reveal the big story where they knew the whole time. And they never do because maybe they didn't know the whole time. But this would have been a good one.
So from the Kwaitkowski edit, would it be that you don't get anything? Like, do you get Gabler saying Ellie went through my bag at the merge feast, or do you even remove that from the edit?
I mean, that would be okay. I think it all needs to happen in one episode. So it'd be like, that's the turning point. And we're like, wait, he knew? Oh my gosh, not only is he saying it in this public forum, but he's been like sitting. It's almost, it's kind of similar to almost the Natalie Anderson thing, right? Where it's like, it's building, except at least with Natalie, we got the confessionals where we see. So actually, the way they did edit it is more similar to what we got with Natalie. But this would be like just the big shocker, like the twist is he knew all along.
Very genius style, right? Of like, which I mean, they've been doing. We've seen this more and more, especially with the idol finds and that kind of stuff. But it is all contained within one episode. I don't think we've ever seen it span, multiple episodes. Stuff that happened pre-merge that then ends up, coming to fruition in the merge.
And this isn't something I'd want to see multiple times. I think it would be funny one time, and then in the future, you're like, well, now we just can't trust like the edit because they're hiding stuff from us intentionally. But that's what I'm saying. If it was a movie or if it was a book, this would be like the twist.
No, I'm here for Gabler Soze personally. That you're like, oh, wait a minute, he doesn't have a limp the entire time. He was just saying that he had the idol, but it was actually in the coffee cup. This was just so fun. Listen, I think there's some interesting gameplay going on, but really the focus on this season, in my opinion, has been like the drama of it all. I love it. These people just seem to like not be able to stand each other. And it's not gone to the level of like the worlds apart side of like the toxicity. It's that really nice Gabon-esque kind of happy medium of, okay, there's a lot of interpersonal stuff going on, but it's not veering into like very problematic territory. And I've been loving it. Look, I'll admit the first few episodes of the season, I was like, yeah, this is fine. This is, solid, but I would say nothing spectacular. And it has really grown the past few weeks, in my opinion. And hopefully it keeps going because these people are just here to play. Look no further than Ellie. I think Ellie's a great representation of this, right? That like she is willing to try so many different things, including not only thinking she convinced this man that his idol wasn't valid when it was, but also believing he still, for what, like weeks and weeks at this point, did not check the note that he's like, I could check, but you know what? Ellie did tell me a week and a half ago that it wasn't valid. So I think I'm just going to leave it be.
Mhm.
Every minute that you leave that idol in the game is a minute longer that he's going to be able to check the note. But the fact that she's trying all these things, even when she hits the freaking beach, right? She's like, okay, here's the decoy, and then here's the decoy to the decoy, and we're going to split these votes. And I just thought it was beautiful that while obviously the Gabler stuff was like really fun from like a long-term payoff perspective, there's also a very legitimate short-term reason to get rid of her, which is when Coco and Messi start comparing notes, right? They're like, wait, Ellie put like a third of our names out there? Yeah, we should probably vote her out. I think she was, though I'm sad to see her go because I thought she was such a fun character and such a big, memorable player of this season. I think she represented so much of like the timbre of the gameplay this season, which is like not the most subtle, but always willing to try something, which again, 43 seasons into Survivor, that's all I personally want from a cast, and they're giving it to me.
So I just thought of this. Do you remember when you were children? I don't know if anyone else had this moment, but I remember having a day when I was like, oh my gosh, I'm realizing for the first time that when I leave my friend's house, they have a life that they're living that's like beyond just my interaction with them.
It was
like
like
I remember,
you finally removed yourself from like your solipsistic worldview, right? Of
I
like,
just- I
okay,
just
stop that they
remembered,
don't
like-
stare into a void of space until I show
yeah,
back up.
like,
again.
and I'm not sure that I like thought like, oh, they shut down like robots, but I was just like, it just hit me one day that I was like, oh my gosh, they have like these other people, like everyone's lives are moving on around me, and I'm just living in it. It's not like I'm the center of the story. And I feel like Ellie was playing Survivor like all of the other people were just when she wasn't there, like she tells them a thing and then they shut down. They don't go tell anyone else. They don't do anything else. She's the only sentient one and everyone else is NPCs. That's how she was playing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. For me, it was that I think for like teachers in school, because that's where you interact with them is at school. And then
Yeah.
I don't know what I thought they did when they weren't teaching, just like sitting in the classrooms, just like waiting for the next day. I don't know.
It's like when you find out your parents have first names, that they're not
Oh,
just mom
yeah.
and dad.
Mhm. Or that they like lived before you existed. Like that they had
exactly.
lives before you. Yeah. No.
And so I can understand though, like when you put your nose to the grindstone and you have like a very self-centered view, because like that's what you do in Survivor. You try to consider all perspectives, but at the end of the day, you can only filter things through your own. That you get surprised of like, wait, Sammy leaked all that information to Gabler? I have absolutely no idea. And part of that is a credit to Sammy, which I think this week, both for good and for bad, showed a lot of like social prowess that he had built up and currently exerts. But at the same time, it's a little bit like you had experienced the game from one perspective and it all just comes rushing at you. But I adore the Gabler Ellie stuff. That confrontation that they had in the Grove, honestly, may be an all-timer for me. I know it's a little hyperbolic to say, but there's just so much great stuff in there between like him lying to her and her lying to him and her being like, all right, well, now you put me on the chopping block, so I got to go save my neck. He's like, I don't know if I did that. She's like, you did that.
Yes, that was you. That is your fault. You said my name because you said my name to say my name. Okay, we know that now. I wanted to go back just briefly to sort of the like what's been guiding the vote outs because I'm looking at the boot order and I'm thinking like, okay,
wait a minute.
Mariah, I would say like that one was a little bit more like. I don't know. It was theoretically said that it was challenge prowess, but like we didn't really see anything from Baca's first vote out. So I don't know what to say about there. I would say Justine, yeah, it was because her and Jesse didn't get along, right? Because they were clashing. NECA's was also motivated, I think, by challenge strength, even though they all really enjoyed her. But then Lindsay was like Lindsay's own implosion. Gio was, Gio being cocky. Ellie was Ellie being cocky and like going through people's bags and like that kind of stuff. So I would say that maybe two you could argue were strategy, but the rest were all just kind of like the chaotic emotional relationships that were being built or not built out there on the island. So that I think is indicative of this very messy. Yes, there's gameplay going on, but there's also a lot of personal stuff going on that's motivating the decisions of the game.
Mary, what do you make of now? I can't even call it like this version of Earn the Merge because essentially they just took a couple trimmings off the tree, right?
Yeah.
They basically said it's basically the last 2 seasons, but without the hourglass twist and without the exile. They're still dividing them up into 2 groups. They're still having one group be immune. The other group is the only one up for the vote. Now that we have removed what I would say was the most controversial element of it, are you enjoying it as sort of this first round of the tribes coming together? Did it make you see this twist in a new light, considering that there's not something to take all the focus away in the form of the hourglass?
I like the removal of the hourglass portion. I think that's probably pretty universal. I think the part I like about it is the uh it's almost like in the challenge, if you watch the challenge in the season where they started saying, okay, you can't like run my final until you get a skull, until you go down and fight.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I make that connection is like, there are people who I think some would argue in the past, oh, they're never going to be looked at. Once the merge hits, they're never going to be looked at. They're going to fall in the background. And this is a chance where if they lose the challenge, they may be looked at because there's such a smaller pool. So basically, it forces everyone to really, really quickly make intertribal bonds because you might be relying on those votes based on how the tribe breakdown is. It doesn't necessarily benefit people who have come into the merge with a bigger pre-merge tribe, and it also factors in the like more significance of the losing your vote from the previous beware advantages or trips to the island, because you have to factor in all the votes that you don't have, like Janine couldn't vote this time. So I think that those are the ways in which I like it, is just forcing people who might otherwise not have to play the social game to have to do that. The part I don't like about it is more of the like lack of classic structure, right? Like you want to get to the merge and be like, okay, everybody gets the feast, everybody gets the to have this. So I almost think I want both, right? Like I want there to be a tribe challenge where you win, you all are safe and you're all sort of one worlding it for a second. And then after this vote, they go, okay, now everyone merges. Now you get the buffs. Now you get the merge feast. Like if you're going to do tentative merge, like where it hasn't happened yet, don't give out the buffs to one tribe. Just say like, you're safe. You're in limbo. You're all in mergatory. You're together, but nobody has made the merge yet until we get one person off.
Yeah, I think, okay, so after, thinking about it myself and listening to your critiques, I think the one thing of like the lack of classic structure, I think that's really the only reason why I would be opposed to this.
Mhm.
Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a problem with it. If I'm complaining, it's just because I'm complaining because back in my day,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Like, I think with the removal of the hourglass, I think that was absolutely like so critically important. I think with having Noelle, the person in the middle, choose a team to back, like fine,
Sure.
that's fine. I have no problem with that. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, with the whole earn the merge thing, or that half the group can be safe, that's fine. It's just just not classic Survivor.
Well, that's what I think. For me, it's fine, but it almost made me realize more like, do we need this? Maybe it's just because there was such a controversial element that was so negatively panned, maybe the most negatively panned thing I've seen since Edge of Extinction, which wasn't that long ago, but still like had a huge pushback to the point that even Jeff Probst, who I think would admit firsthand, like, I don't listen that much to what the fans have to say, is like, okay, we got to get rid of this thing. We get it. Okay. Stop sending me ravens, all that stuff. I think that it's good that they got rid of that, and I think that's fine. But then it almost made me look at this, and it's like, yeah, I think a merge vote would be fine. I don't know why this necessarily needs to happen. I think to your point, Mary, what this almost resembles more is, I know this season has been very Gabon-y in terms of the messiness of it all, but it reminds me of in Survivor Gabon, they had like a pseudo feast divided up into 2 tribes one more time for one more round, did a vote, and then they merged back together. That's essentially what this is now.
I think the main difference is that the people who are safe do get to vote. Like, I think that if you do you split in half and only those half of people go to tribal council, like we've seen that before in seasons as well. Original Fiji had that and stuff. And I think that the main problem with that is just that it's so easy to screw someone over just by like unluck of the draw for getting on the losing tribe who otherwise would have been in a great position. So I like that the people have to maybe try to pull like a person over to their side or 2 people, but you don't have to get down to it's like, oh shoot, it's an entire previous tribe and me because I got stuck on this. But I agree that I feel like if we're still gonna have like a merge, okay, brainstorm here. The whole earn the merge thing. Is there a way to do that to make it even more ridiculous? Because the downside to the earn the merge in this scenario is like it's so based on challenge performance. Is there something else they could do where I want to see each individual person have to earn the merge? And like, what do you do if you don't earn the merge? So like maybe like 8 out of 12 people earn the merge and the other 4 have to sleep like off to the side. Like they can't come into camp until they earn the merge too. They don't get their buff. They can't come into camp.
Are you suggesting like a backstage boss type of twist where they have to wear certain buffs, like white buff, completely blank?
Oh no, I created the worst twist. No, not that. Not that. But like I do think that if you're gonna make earn the merge be like your thing and that's why you're doing it this way, I don't think it should come down to one challenge by random draw that one person gets to back. Like there needs to be something more, like maybe at the very least they like pick the teams or something where you have to have some sort of way, or maybe it's like, okay, we all get to this challenge, now you have an hour to all get to know each other, to strategize, knowing that you will be broken into teams somehow. And then then you get to pick the team. So at least you have an hour to like try to campaign to get on the better team or something.
So if I may pull something from down under and talk about Australian Survivor, Liana, the accent's just for you there.
I love that.
So they've done this a couple times on Australian Survivor. So there was one in the Brains versus Brawn season where they did one challenge, but it was like the top 5 individual finishers were all immune. And so the bottom 5 finishers were all up for elimination. I think that's a better solution. I think one of my issues is that it's a team challenge. Like, I think to your point of like, oh, someone could just get dragged along. I mean, with no offense to Carla, that's kind of what happened with her in this challenge where she like broke her hand basically. And they're like, well, Carla's still safe because her team won the challenge. If you're testing individual merit, that's a reason to do that. But the downside of that was that was one challenge, and it was also an incredibly physical challenge. They had to run up and down a hill like a billion times. So I think what you might want to settle on to is another twist from Australian Survivor. They did like an exile island week. It was pretty stupid, but essentially they voted people out. They made their way onto this exile island, and then they competed to get back on, and they went through a series of challenges. There was like a fire making challenge. There was a puzzle challenge. There was a physical challenge. This would make people absolutely bulk in our circles. But Mary, if we go along with your sort of structure, I wonder if you could do sort of an episode of like a bunch of different trials almost like those challenges, right? Where it's like, okay, first 3 to finish, move on to the next round. Like if you win that challenge, you get your buff, you're safe. And then however many people are left at the end of these trials are going to be the ones up for elimination.
And maybe this is more, I don't know if this is Big Brother or just some other reality show, but if some of the trials weren't challenges, like physical challenges, but instead things like, okay, everyone in the tribe will vote for 2 people that they want to be safe and want to make the merge, and you can't vote for yourself. Or if you want to make it more survivory, you go to like one of those slam booked style challenges where you have to like guess the whatever number. So like there would be a way
guess
to
the number.
Kind of guess the most
how many fingers do I have behind my back?
Guess the average, whatever it is. Like I think that there would be ways to do it where I want to see people, if you're going to make earn the merge so important, I want it to be a little bit more individual, and I want it to be testing different strengths. And I just really love this idea that there could be multiple episodes where people haven't earned the merge that are just like having to do something by themselves.
Okay, so new idea. Combining the Beware advantage with Earn the Merge. Okay, so every single person has a task they have to, some type of social task they have to accomplish in the pre-merge. If you do it by the time we get to this episode, then you've made the merge. Everyone else then competes in an individual immunity challenge. And that way you're testing both the social, but you also have the physical as a backup if you don't manage to accomplish the social task. Then out of the pool of people there from the immunity, maybe you only have 1 or 2 people win, whatever, depending on how many people are left. Then those are the people that didn't earn it. And they didn't earn it either through social means or through physical means. Ta-da!
Boom.
No, all the best twist pitches end with ta-da.
Yes.
Like you're some sort of bit rate magician.
I like it.
Well, so the social task, would each person get a different task? Or do
I
you
don't
have
know.
multiple people
I
being
don't
like,
know.
who wants a foot massage? No, I'm going to give the foot massages today.
Okay. Oh gosh.
I mean, but that
guess
could
they'll
be
also
part of
different.
that could be part of the beware. Like you could even maybe find your beware advantage. Like maybe you're not each given one, but you find one, and it's like you can only do one. You must do one by the merge time or whatever.
Pick.
Note that there's like 5 out here. You don't get to read them, but you can blindly pick from the different 5 or something. At least there's a way that people could get different ones.
Or it could be like one hidden on each tribe and first come, first serve, right? And maybe it's like with the beware advantage, it's like, please put this back once you've like returned to sender. This message will self-destruct. Please bury it once you've read it, so that someone could legitimately find it, be like, oh, I found this thing. Okay, I guess I better do it now. So that way, like, it doesn't make too many people inordinately safe, but then at least 3 people would be safe at the merge.
Well, you just make it really hard, okay? And then that way you're really only going to get a subset of people that might end up collecting it. And if nobody earns their way, then great, fine. Then no one earned their way.
Did you have a task in mind that you want them to accomplish? You want it to be social, right?
Yeah, something that utilizes the social capital. So like we saw the beads, right? Okay, so it could be like convincing people to do something, building a sand castle, something more challenging than that because they're on a beach with sand. So like to convincing people to play a game. I don't know, just like something that requires your ability to get others to do stuff.
I have an idea to add on top of your idea. What if the beware advantage is a quiz about your tribe members that you have to answer, right? Like, what is the name of Gabler's daughter? When did Cody graduate college? Also, did Cody graduate college?
But on each tribe, one person is the mole, and so they might not tell you the correct answer.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
We've combined every reality TV show at this point. We've got a little bit.
Yeah,
Big
we've
Brother,
made
the mall.
We've made
inevitable.
New Show. New Show is the best show.
I think that'd be fun, right? To be like, much like getting the individual beads from each tribe member.
Yeah.
I think it could be fun to be like, okay, so especially since we've sort of eliminated the Fallen Comrades quiz. Speaking of back in my day, right, of like those early seasons of whose hat is this, or where does Nick live? I think that that could be a fun way to like imagine someone being like, yeah, can you tell me like what year your dad died? For no reason.
Just out of the blue.
Curious. Yeah, just really curious about it.
I collect that information. And then also it can be what famous celebrity they're related to. Could also be a question. Get a little claim to fame in there, So yeah. Oh gosh. Oh good. This is good. I think we've solved it, guys.
We've solved
nailed
it.
Yeah, we solved the earn the merge twist.
No, Nailed It's a different show. That one's on Netflix.
Oh,
that's you have to make a
no
cake.
baking. Yeah.
A cake comes a tree mail and they say, okay, tribe, you have to make this cake and bring it to the challenge.
Yeah. Look, that's one of them, got to gather the ingredients. They have tequila out there, I hear. So you know what?
There's one more thing I want to show before we get into our usual stuff. So we are recording this on Sunday morning, and we get the benefit of, should there ever be a Survivor-related thing that happens on Saturday Night Live, we are first boots on the ground. Somehow that ended up happening. Have any of you heard about this?
No, wait, from last night?
Okay, so let me share something here. Okay, so here we go. So Jeff Probst showed up on Saturday Night Live last night.
What?
In the middle of the opening sketch. I watched it this morning. He was introduced as Survivor's Jeff Probst. I can describe what the sketch was, but this is just like, I don't know. This is unbelievable to me, personally.
What? Like, how did that come about? Because like, okay, maybe if you're gonna promote the season, do it at the beginning of, like, you would coordinate that at the beginning of the season. Like, was this to promote anything in particular? Or just showed up, I'm Jeff Probst, and then bye.
It
Oh,
was quite the latter. So basically,
Why is he holding a piece of paper that says Clint gets to be Joker?
let me describe this for you,
What
Mary.
is happening?
This is the peak form of comedy, and mind you,
oh
this was
no.
the lead-off sketch after the opening monologue here, which should be theoretically like your lead hitter, to use some baseball terms. The sketch involved a man and a wife getting married, but she objects because the best man is dressed up like Joker. And I kid you not, the word Joker was said in a funny Southern accent no less than, for Survivor reasons, I'm going to say 39 times over the course of a 5-minute sketch. So then they say, all right, we're going to hold a vote to find out if Clint can still be dressed up like Joker. And so they go
Wait,
down the line. Yes, please. I'll
like
accept any questions.
the Joker?
Yes.
What do you mean, Joker?
He's dressed up like Joker. Well, he's dressed up
The
like the Joker, but they keep saying like, Clint dressed up like Joker. So they took the out of it because,
what?
comedy.
What?
And that's literally the
What?
accent that they use. Again, very similar to like the way I bastardized Louisiana last week. They essentially adopted that for a full sketch premise. So what they did was then they said, all right, we're going to have a vote amongst the people in the room to figure out if Clint can still be dressed up like Joker. And so then they go down the line and like there's a majority vote, I suppose, to have Clint play Joker. And then they go, Survivor Jeff Probst, come in here and read the votes. And then it just cuts to Jeff standing here.
What?
Yeah, next to Heidi Gardner. And so he has an urn next to him. And he says, out of order, I might add. So I would say the writers are not Survivor super duper fans. He says, the tribe has spoken. He reaches into the urn, pulls out the aforementioned ballot that Mary said that says Clint gets to be Joker. And that's how the sketch ends, is that Jeff Probst just apparates in the middle here. He's summoned like Beetlejuice and gets to reveal the winning bid, I suppose, that Clint gets to be Joker.
It somehow made less sense once you described it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how that's possible. Like, it made more sense before you even told me what it was.
So the pitch was, we're going to do a sketch that involves people voting, and then we'll just have Jeff pop in to read the votes.
Like,
that was the joke.
But only like halfway through. The first half has nothing to do with voting. It's just how many times can we say Joker in a funny voice? Actually, Joker would be like a funny way to fun merge try.
This isn't like a Southern accent. What are they?
But why? I don't.
But why is a good way to describe, I'd say about 75% of SNL sketches. You know what? They got a week to write this type of stuff. Liana and I have only a few days to come up with games. We understand the creative struggle that comes from that.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Like, you could say that our games sometimes make as much sense as Jeff Probst randomly showing up in the middle of a wedding thing to say that someone can or cannot be Joker.
Joker.
Was Jasmine there?
Mary's got it. Mary's closer to the Mason-Dixon line, so she, I think, has the vibe the most on the accent of the Joker.
Joker.
That is weird. That's
so
weird.
Was she happy that Clint got to be Joker?
No, she's sad. She spoke up and said, I don't want to be Brad Groom if Clint gets to be Joker. Because the thing was they were getting married on Halloween night, so that's why people were making the argument that Clint should have been Joker.
Gotcha.
So I mean, it's a pretty wild moment though, because from my memory, this is the first time Jeff Probst has shown up on Saturday Night Live. They did so they've done a Survivor sketch a few seasons ago, though they didn't call it Survivor. Jeff Probst also, though, showed up on Mad TV. I'm not sure if you all remember this little chestnut. Sounds like you don't. Let me go into history here.
Didn't they have like they had a whole sketch though, right?
They had a whole sketch around Survivor Cook Islands.
Yes.
So this was, again, Mad TV peak mid-2000s, if we can call Mad TV a peak. It's more like a thinly sloped hill. But essentially, like, they made fun of Survivor Cook Islands. They did a bunch of surprise, like racial humor around everything. and Jeff Probst was there. I think he also did a fake commercial about like a Survivor soundtrack, where he did like fake Survivor songs. So he has dabbled in sketch comedy before, but that was a good like 15 years ago. To Mary's point, I don't know. I mean, Liana, you and I talked about Jeff Probst going on Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan's podcast last
Yep.
week.
Oh yeah.
Now he's showing up on SNL. Is it like CBS is like, oh my God, the ratings are worse than ever. Jeff, get out there. Start showing your face.
Yeah, and then we're just gonna randomly draw from a bag what venues you should go on. Yep. Oh, this week? Okay, yeah, sure. You're going on a podcast with the cast of Lord of the Rings. All right, great. This week, yeah, SNL, but you're just gonna show up. We're gonna randomly insert you into a skit. Nothing about actual Survivor. All right, great. What's next week? I don't know.
Next week you'll be on the gamer side of YouTube, and you'll be doing you'll be playing some games.
All right, we're playing Fortnite today with Jeff Probst.
Yeah, he had a G4 interview, but that got canceled, obviously. So, yeah, like it's so random.
Oh,
Well,
Jeff Probst could be the new Try Guy.
Oh,
Yes, yeah, that's exactly. I mean, that's a good fit. When I can just see it.
but the thing about Jeff Probst is, like, I'm sure he has like a personality and identity that's separate from Survivor. But
No.
at this point, the only times you ever see him on TV or hear him mentioned are pretty much all Survivor related, right? Like
Yeah.
it's some sort of, or it's someone saying like the tribe has spoken or whatever. And so I almost wonder if it's like, send Jeff out on these things. Let's just see. Is he still in the zeitgeist? Like, do people still like see Jeff Probst and instantly go, oh yeah, that's the Survivor guy, Like,
Well, Survivor guys,
you're right.
He might pop out at some point.
Slightly different. Yeah, I wonder that, because like there's plenty of people I know who don't watch Survivor, but like have a passing understanding of who Jeff Probst is, but only in the Survivor context. He's not like someone who has a separate identity.
Can we talk about go ahead, Liana.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think that ship has sailed of Jeff being known
Yeah.
for anything other than Survivor, right? You commit so many years, you're the executive producer, like he's in it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Robert Forster told them right on that podcast.
That's right.
Keep riding that wave until it crashes. Though we should note here, the hair. I'm trying to remember. Jeff doesn't have his like Coven mullet this season, does he, on the island?
It doesn't feel like it's as much. I haven't been looking as closely.
Yeah, I don't know if I've just like accepted it. Definitely in like the promos and stuff, I feel like he does. I think he still has it. I think it's not as long though, so maybe he got a haircut. But this is much shorter.
Yeah, but it's also much higher. Like his hair, it looks like Danny Zuko.
Well, he's on big time late night television. I don't know. Maybe add a little extra gel for the late nights.
All right, it's 11:30. Put as much pomade in my hair as possible.
Up to the sky.
All right, well, I just wanted to point that out because again, that is like incredibly breaking news and is really weird. I would say check it out yourself. Maybe don't, unless you want to hear the word Joker 39 times. If that is your fancy, look, I'm not going to yuck your yum here. Feel free to watch it for the random Jeff Probst cameo. But the extent of what she was on was, I'd say, about like 1/15 the length of our actual conversation about the moment.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, well, let's talk about Ellie here. Let's look back on this week's boot. I guess first off, Mary, any thoughts about Ellie? I would say definitely big character. Were you surprised even before this episode that she would end up going out the way that she did in the boot that she did?
I was surprised that she made it this far. I mean, I think a lot of people had predicted that she might have been in some danger if her tribe had to go to a vote earlier than this. I think she was very, very entertaining. Like we've talked about a lot. Like she was someone who clearly came in to play hard and just didn't necessarily calculate the the ways in which all of her moves could be backfiring at the same time. I think it was a lot like seeing someone play who like had studied the game and been like, oh, these are the things that work, so I need to replicate those things because those were amazing moments, and not realizing like the nuance that some of those things had to have happen. It's like, yes, it's not just that you pick a vote, split the votes, throw out a decoy vote. It's like you also got to make sure none of those people will talk, that you got to have the relationships they all trust you the most and stuff, and like that part wasn't quite there. But I really liked Ellie. I was hoping, I mean, I, like you, thought that by the end, I was pretty much had no question that she was going home. but I was hoping there was some way that she could stay because she was just bringing so much entertainment, and like I wanted to see Ellie versus Gabler round 2.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. You want to see the battle continue.
Yeah.
I think she was someone who was obviously like very entertaining, brought a lot of energy in the confessionals. I think delivered quite a bit. So I think all of those things, made me appreciate her. But yeah, after the first couple, I look again. We'll talk about it. I had high hopes for her, but after the first episode or two, it was like, oh, like you are underestimating the people you were playing with, and this is going to bite you in the butt.
Yeah.
Can I make what seems like an odd comparison at the outset? Is Ellie like the most Chris Noble type we have seen on the show? It's odd, right? Because like brains versus brawn from that perspective. But I feel like especially the way the episode was edited very much reminded me of Ghost Island, right? Where it was Dom versus Chris simmering for so long. And then it was pretty much like one person said, yeah, we're going to get rid of the other person. Everyone's like, okay, cool. And nearly everyone votes against them. That's the feeling I got from this episode. Ellie did not go so far as to like lead everybody away, right? To be like, all right, we're going on a field trip. But I just feel like from the way it was edited to, again, that sort of like cockiness and perhaps lack of awareness that Elliot built up throughout these past few weeks, I was kind of reminded of the Noble one.
So Gabler is dumb.
Yes.
I love this.
And it
This
works
is
with the
great.
idol, right?
Yeah, it does.
Because with the whole like showed him a fake idol, but I actually have the real idol, but I'm gonna pretend to, I don't know. Like somehow that also kind of fits with Gabler's like, oh, I have an idol, but it doesn't work, but it does work, but I know that you know that so I think that actually works quite well. If that is the case, which I believe that it is, then I do expect a music video at some point from Ellie on a jet ski. That would make my life.
Yeah,
that would be great.
I wonder, because I don't know if we're going to get Ponderosa videos this year, because I know that 42 didn't have them. I don't know if they hired anyone, because I know with 42 there was also a rumor, I think, that like the person who had who usually produced them like ended up leaving after 41 or what have you. I hope we get it. We wouldn't get it from Ellie. There was that brief, I don't know if you all had like tapped so much into the vein of Survivor fandom that like there was a little Mariah video that she put out of her being like, oh, here I am at Ponderosa.
I saw the Ellie one from this. I can't remember where I saw it. Yeah, I can't remember if it was, I think it was on Instagram, but it was her being like, it wasn't called Ponderosa, it was called something else. Like this is my stay away. I don't remember what it was called, but it was some sort of other names where she's like, I'm off the show, but I'm still here. Here's me with the ocean in the background. And yeah, it was they did have a little video.
Okay, but no rap though.
No
what
rap.
I'm hearing
Sadly.
is no rap.
No,
okay, well.
no rap. But that would have been great. I think my favorite part about this, like Ellie, Gabler, Dominic, and Chris Noble comparison, is just this idea that like, it's I think there are still a lot of people watching the show who think that because he stereotypically would sort of be presented this way, that like that Gabler somehow is still in the wrong for this decision, or that Gabler like doesn't know everything, or is like, oh, he's just wacky Gabler or whatever. And it's like, yeah, like nothing he's done so far has really been like particularly like besides his actions in the first episode, pretty much everything else it's been like, no, that's what you would do if you found out that one of your allies was actually not your ally. And yeah, whereas I think with Chris Noble, it was a little bit more like, oh yeah, that checks out based on what we sort of think about him.
I mean, I don't know. Gabler did also approach Janine in front of Riot. He's like,
that's true.
Hey, you have an idol, right? And she's like,
I forgot about that. I did forget about that. I don't know. I think Gabler's big braining it. He's like, look, I'm safe, and I can say I've got immunity, so I'm just gonna say whatever I want this whole round. People will forget. New things will happen.
Here's an interesting question. So it's been confirmed. Tyson texted Matt Van Wagenen during his podcast to get confirmation. Gabler's idol has expired officially. This is the second tribal council he visited. Though he was safe, it was the last time it could be used. Could it have come full circle? Could he believe that he could still use it another round? And so perhaps one of the reasons behind this bravado was for him to say, I'm safe next round anyway. I've got an idol that's extended its lifespan. I could do whatever I want.
Oh my gosh, that would be a really fun epilogue to this Ellie Gabler story that actually it ends up somehow coming true after all that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, look, on the whole Gabler thing, I feel like it's more him just sort of falling butt backwards into something that's working out for him. Like I think especially because even in confessionals, we're not really getting the whole like, oh, and this is my mastermind plan. Like literally by throwing Ellie's name out, I was throwing Ellie's name out. I don't know how more
Yes.
simplistic you get with strategy. So I don't know about that, but I do kind of like maybe there's a part of me that wants to believe that this is this big brain play from Gabler.
Yeah, I love it. Just because like he was trying to throw Ellie's name out there, but it was done again so uncouth. He just basically met these people, and he's like, "By the way, this is my like hairy divorce that I'm going through," and everyone's like, "I don't need to hear this business right now." But it's also like in front of your wife's best friend as
yeah.
well, and I love how they go around like, "All right, I want to keep these people safe." And Gabler seems to go second, and he says, "I want everyone except Ellie to be safe."
Oh my gosh. Yeah, exactly. It's just what like not the time or the place, Gabler, not the time. I mean, you could say the same thing about Ryan being like, "All right, final 7. Let's
Yes!
go."
Oh, I'm obsessed with how low key or high key messy Ryan is, right? He's like, "I'm on the bottom. I really got humbled. All right, new time in the game. Final 7, anyone? Fate put us together for a reason. I could see us at the end."
Oh my god, that and then also the idol moment that you guys were talking about with Janine and Gabler when Gabler just comes up and Ryan's there. Oh, I won't say anything. I promise I won't say anything. They get up and he's just like, "Oh." I'm like, Ryan is so funny. He's like very amusing to me. I'm enjoying watching him play the game.
And there was also so there was a deleted scene actually this week on EW where when everyone's socializing, like they just met, Ryan goes down to the beach and builds like a prevailing wall to block them from the winds, like purposely isolates himself to go build this wall. And not only that, he chops up the beloved Baka drying stick, this big like bedraggled branch that all the Baka members use to dry their clothes. Ryan just like hacks through that to build a wall out of it.
Oh, sweet Ryan.
Oh gosh.
All
Well,
right.
that and then his performance in the challenge with him just like straight up hanging upside down.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
all of
That
that
was
just
amazing.
I
was
love
very
that so
impressive.
much. I feel like people have not talked about this. Definitely redemption for James. When James like single-handedly hopped up the ramp. Remember the last time he had to go up a ramp and his pants fell off? Such redemption for James. And James nearly got his pants pulled down strategically this episode as well.
Yeah.
But no, he's got the belt on in more ways than one.
Yeah, pants stayed up across the board.
All right, well, Liana, let's see how pantsed we both are when it comes to our Ellie predictions.
Oh my god.
You said you had high hopes for her.
Yeah.
How high?
So high that my pants are not just on the ground, they're across the street. I had Ellie in the final 3. Oh boy, baby. So
Interesting.
finale, final 3. I said Ellie created strong bonds early in her tribe and came into the merge with loyal allies. Owen was her
Loyal ally.
ally, yeah, singular. Not enough to play the idol though. Owen was her partner in crime, and together they idled out Lindsay at the final 6.
Ooh.
In the final tribal council, however, the jury couldn't separate her and Owen's games, and so she was a losing finalist. Her ally was Owen, her enemy was Carla, and she had 57 confessionals.
And by the way, I think the number is what, 28 according to Rob's fact checker, which
Oh,
is,
boy.
about half.
That was
Yeah.
That's more respectable than it could have been. Hey, look, if she had made it to the final 3, she would have been a lot closer
Yeah.
to 57.
Exactly. Thank you. She was
Well,
on pace.
If you look across the metaphoric street that Liana pointed out, you'll see next to it a familiar pair of brown slacks.
Oh no! Oh no!
I also had Ellie making the final 3.
Oh, you pants were slant. Oh no!
So I said that she would be the first person this season to utter the infamous "Azza" phrase,
Ah.
which I think she might have actually, as a
Mhm.
psychologist.
Mhm.
True to her desires of being an advantage queen, she will find the most advantages this season. Unfortunately, her self-proclaimed sloppiness will also come into play, as she'll spill about these advantages to the wrong people at the wrong time, which
Mm.
essentially depowers them. I forgot, yeah, in my preseason interview with her, she's like, oh, what I like about the new era is I don't have to think too much, because people think I'm really organized on the surface, but actually I'm a mess underneath. And it's like,
Well,
I think we kind of saw
I
that
think we
now.
saw that.
She will 100% go against what she told me preseason and step out of a challenge for food. Bet. Oh, did I really write bet in here?
bet.
Oh,
Yes.
Mike.
Right.
Ugh, God. She unfortunately
It's like
gets
reading your own diary when you were 12. And you're like,
Except
oh,
for this, it was
no.
like 12 days ago instead of 12 years ago. She unfortunately gets branded as the goat of the season partway through the merge, but doesn't realize it. As a result, she transparently treats the other players like patients, which has them losing their patience with her.
Oh.
Her closest ally was Owen. Her
Mm.
enemy was most of the jury by the end. She had 43 confessionals, so a little bit
Oh.
less than you. And her randomly drawn phrase, he's in a boy band, which doesn't make sense for a snake.
Oh,
Wow,
okay.
deep.
Valid sentence.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
boy
think makes
bands,
sense.
not for snakes.
Not for snakes. Mm-mm.
Okay, there was a lot of good things here. Now, we've already established that both your pants are across the highway. So
That should be,
Pants.
I feel like that's one of those phrases, like, oh, that's a phrase, right? Pants across the highway.
Yeah, your pants are across
Yeah.
the highway.
You both had a lot, actually a lot more similarities than I was expecting. The partnership with Owen, which you kind of both get checks for in those columns. You overshot the confessionals a little, put them in the same winning spot. I think I will have to give this one to Mike, just because you did have the whole like people treating them like patients. Yeah, I feel like
Mhm.
that was kind of a thing, and the jury disliking them at the end. I mean,
Yeah,
at this
technically,
point, the people,
everyone else is
yeah,
ranking up the jury.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
Makes
basically.
sense.
there we go. Bet.
So yeah, I think that was bet. Yeah, you were both so far away, and yet you clued into a couple key things there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's valid. I do think Mike was ultimately closer.
Yeah, well, it's interesting
overall.
though, because I think, Liana, I think there's a reason why you and I went high. I think a lot of people were
Mhm.
high on Ellie, because I
Mhm.
think this also goes to show, like, it's interesting that we're talking about someone who has a PhD, that on paper, right, you look at the degrees on the wall and you see someone who I think is very well equipped to be a Survivor player. Basic understanding of human behavior, seems to have a lot of friendliness, warm tone, etc. But then, like, once they actually execute it, you
Mhm.
realize that those degrees do not necessarily apply to the treatment process. And I think Ellie was an example here of, like, I certainly did not expect her to play the way that she did.
It's
Mhm.
it's like you almost want to do some sort of, I don't know, maybe this is like a Peridium video idea of looking at all of the winners of Survivor and thinking about, before you knew anything about them, just sort of looking at maybe their bio or whatever, how much did you expect them to win Survivor? Who is the person on that season that was like the Survivor winner on paper? And then who's the one who won, and what might be the discrepancy there? Because I do think a lot of times we have these people who are early boots, who everyone was like, oh no, they were in everybody's top 3.
Mhm.
But maybe it just doesn't, the paper doesn't translate.
Mhm. Well, I think that's where well, I don't know. As someone who has done a PhD, it's a lot of failing. Like, you fail a lot all the
Mhm.
time. And so I just wonder if, like, yeah, this is just part of this is part of it, all right? Look, Ellie, you got to get out there. You got to flame out horribly, because you're going to learn a ton from that
Mhm.
experience. I would be very interested to see when she comes back if she can really pick up all of those mistakes, or is it just, look, there's some personalities that I think are just so well equipped to play Survivor, and I think there's some personalities that are not. And if the adaptability, can you learn, can you now implement these new skills without having, well, remembering to not underestimate. So utilize what you have, but be able to make up for those mistakes.
It's also really interesting looking at what happened to Ellie, because I can understand on the one hand, okay, we're at the merge, keep starting Tribe strong. We've spent all this time together. We've voted together. We've gotten to know each other. Let's stick together. On the other hand, you were specifically put on a tribe with these people by producers, knowing that you would be the least compatible with each other.
Mm.
And that's what we kind of saw with Ellie and Gabler, right? They're like, it's one thing to go around saying, okay, we got to remain Baka strong. We have the numbers here. We can take out James. But on the other hand, isn't there something in the back of your head that's like, they purposely put me on a beach with these people because I'm
Mm.
not supposed to get along with them. Aren't there
Yeah.
other people on the other tribes that I should be working with instead?
Mhm. Yeah, I think you definitely have to consider that, right? Like it's not random draw that put these groups together. There's a purpose and reason for that. So thinking about that, I think also is like the next level of the higher level strategy of the game of production as well. Okay. So, I have one thing that I want to talk about before we play our game here today. I want to talk about Sammy. He has been frequently in my brain. He's living rent free in there because I don't know what to make of this kid. Like his answer, I want to talk specifically about his answer at tribal council. I don't know if you guys remember this, but it's Sammy is talking about essentially like what it means to play an advantage
Mm.
and where playing an idol can show that you do not trust your allies, which can cause a further rift. And that was like, I just felt such a fantastic answer to specifically prevent the idol play on Ellie. And I was just like, man, that's so smart. Like, I don't even know if I would have thought of that. I hold myself in very high regard, obviously. So I don't know what to make of this kid. Like, again, sorry. So Mary, I just want to get your thoughts, like in general, on him and how you feel like he's playing the game.
So he's he's interesting because I keep seeing all of these, like, he's, like, the 3rd one at least, or at least 2 of a line of very young people playing Survivor
I like
who
how royal it sounds. Like
Yeah,
he's the
yeah.
next
He's
heir.
the next in line,
lineage.
who I look at and I'm like, you know, maybe in person it's different, but at least on TV, I'm like, I don't know, you could pass for, like, 28 if you wanted to. Like, they're very young, and so I think that they, play a lot more held back because they don't wanna, like,
Mm,
accidentally show what their age actually is, um, and because of that, there's, like, this very air of, like, seriousness, about him especially, and I think it's so interesting because, um, I think he's showed by that comment at tribal council that he's, like, got a lot of, um savviness to him and calculated and stuff. I think the question is more so is like when it comes down to a final vote, are people going to feel like he brought enough of his own
mm,
personality? Because if you're trying to hold back or you're trying to hide something, how much are you really going to be able to get to know people? I almost feel like if he had come in and said, "Yep, this is my age, this is my level of knowledge, but I want to learn more. Take me under your wing," and then made some big moves, people would feel more impressed with that. But I don't know. Like he's a very interesting player because he came out in that first episode like really showing a lot of skill, and then has kind of faded into the background a bit until this moment. And I think this is the point where it's going to kind of swing one way or the other. Are people going to start realizing that he's got more going on, or is he just going to fizzle out because no one feels like they know him?
So I had the pleasure of going on the Nerdtainment podcast this past week to rate the players on a scale of 1 to 5. Going into this merge, I gave Sammy a full 5. I think he had been set up incredibly well. To Mary's point, whether or not you feel it's fabricated, I think he has really ingratiated himself socially with Baka. At the time, everyone seemed to love him. Like Janine goes to Sammy. Sorry, Ellie does is like, this isn't my information to spill, but I feel like
Yeah.
you should know this. Like,
mhm,
how much of that is a representation of how good she felt about him? She even told me in my exit interview with her that like one of the reasons why she trusted Sammy so much to the point where she talks about this in Rob's interview, she actually told him what she found out about Cody's idol, because he just came across as such a cool customer. She
mhm,
said that when she made that comment back in the day, right, of like, oh, I have 2 children. Sammy's the older son that can kind of be on his own, and Owen's the one that requires a lot more attention and pats on the head. Because Owen was kind of more acting more shifty, a little more needing of reassurance, whereas like
mm,
Sammy was much more independent and
mm,
someone who definitely came across a lot cooler. I think that's Sammy's vibe. I think Sammy's cool.
yeah,
He's just a really cool guy. I think it just seems like that chill aspect is something that, yeah, really, it's interesting though, because like you're doing the tenting of the fingers, Liana. I think that's something he doesn't do to his cast members though, which I think is really interesting. That I
yeah,
think he comes across at the time as like someone who's an affable young person that can be certainly a listening ear, ironically enough, for the psychologist. And then behind the scenes, he's like, F these people. I can't believe they're doing this. I think that's really fun because, again, we don't often see that. A lot of people say, I'm going to save my bagging on players for the confessionals, but Sammy truly does seem to do that, considering that he has Gabler in his pocket. And from what we can understand in his confessionals, he can't stand the man.
Yeah.
So, who is the last winner we've had who's been like just sort of the cool confidant in
Wendell.
the background?
I was gonna say Chris
So,
Underwood.
well, we had to find someone to fit in with Chris Noble and Dom. So it had to be
Yes!
Wendell.
I mean, I could
Yes.
also say Tommy to a certain
Yeah.
extent because like everyone got
Yeah,
along with
Tommy.
Tommy.
Yeah, he's giving Tommy vibes.
Mhm.
I think that yeah, it's like what I really want to see is I think we just need more time so we can have more confessionals with him, more of
Mhm.
the what's going on behind, because I'm just worried that like I like what I'm seeing, but I'm worried that if we're not getting a lot more content of the other people, especially the people in these other tribes,
Mhm.
start to say like how good they feel about him, then I don't know how much it matters, but I have
Yeah.
confidence.
Well, the other big thing as well is that obviously there are a lot of questions as to should Sammy have done this at this point? Some people feel like, Baka shouldn't have had this collapse, that Sammy perhaps had like stoked the fires a bit too much, that when it rages out of control, he's like, oh my God, the repercussions of my own actions have come full circle. It's a little bit of a tough one. I feel like this is a question we'll be able to have much more of a grasp on like a few weeks from now, right? Whether or not this is going to lead to a downslide of Baka like we see with like a Tandang, for example, or a Timbira of, okay, this is the tribe that had the numbers, they turned on each other and fell apart. But I will lean on giving Sammy some credit here in that like Gabler was away from him. Remember, he went to the feast and he revealed all this information. Sammy hears this when everyone comes back to him. He had no control over this situation. And so
Mhm.
I'll give him a lot of credit for like being dealt this head and saying, all right, well, I guess I have to roll with it now. My chips are already in. I guess I might as well start bluffing. And so, yes, maybe we'll find out later that like the idea of him getting rid of Ellie may not be as conducive because it does seem like she really did trust him. I do feel like a bit of it was something that had to be forced upon him because of the actions of this guy essentially saying, oh yeah, we were supposed to take out Ellie now, right? All right, let's start doing it. And Sammy's like, didn't think it happened this quickly, bud.
Well, and I also wonder because we didn't really get to see a lot of the like Coco vest. I mean, we did see kind of at the end when they're like by the beach and Ryan's like coming up and talking with like Jesse and Cody, and because it also could have been a situation where those two tribes are just like, y'all, they're a freaking mess. Like,
Yeah.
let's just work together, us. All right, let's. Why are we bothering to work with Baka when Baka isn't even a unified front? Like, it doesn't make sense then for us to want to be allies with them because they can't get their s together. So, I also do wonder if it was like Sammy and Owen kind of found out, and it was like, all right, well, I guess we don't really have a choice because Coco and Bessie are going to get together.
But there's also, on that point of Owen, I think, and one of the other issues that I think comes from this whole like mergatory stuff is I feel like this is now the second season where we have like a couple questions as to why the votes are scattered the
Oh yeah.
way that they are. So we have nearly everyone voting Ellie, but
Hmm.
Ellie and Owen voted for James. We have, what was it? Noelle votes for Cassidy, and then Carla ends up voting for Owen,
Hmm.
which provides a lot of questions as to, okay, did Owen know that Ellie was going, but put a vote onto James in case an idol was played or a Shaun the Dark was played?
Hmm.
Was Noelle in? Because remember that no, the plan that was floated out was split the votes between James and Cassidy. Was Noelle going along with that plan, or was she also splitting against Shaun the Dark? It seems like Carla has alluded to on social media that she knew what was happening and threw a vote Owen's way in that instance, but
Hmm.
it still led to, at the end of this, despite how straightforward the outcome was, a confusing perspective when it comes to the actual names being written on the paper.
Well, I think was Noelle was the only one who was safe, right? Out of that bunch that had a sort of random vote on
Carla was
Cass.
too.
Carla was safe also. Oh
Yeah.
yes, Carla was safe as well. Okay,
Don't you
yeah, because
remember the hand?
of
It's a
course,
strong
yes.
hand.
I just yeah, because otherwise I was thinking like, well, if I was in that situation of like I'm one of six people that could go home, even though the majority plan is this, like I would be like, okay, you guys do that. I'm gonna throw a vote just in case something wonky happens because I want to protect myself. So I don't know, but now looking back at the list, it's like, oh yeah, except for Owen and Ellie who voted together to vote out James, then
Yeah, so
I
so
don't
yeah, so
know.
I don't know if Owen was in
In
the
on their
dark at
plan.
all, or
Yeah.
because I mean I guess we know had Baka gone back to tribal council who he would have sided with, right? Because he was the
Mhm.
one that was in the middle of those two pairs.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Oof, yeah, it's interesting. And I mean, now that we have sort of factions from each group kind of coming together to all vote out Ellie as the common enemy, it seems, to a certain extent. I do wonder now what that's going to mean moving forward in terms of the tribe dynamics. If we're going to see the tribe stick together, or is now everything just going to sort of fall apart?
Yeah, and to speak on like what Carla did, I feel like it's almost like sometimes I'll do this in like Goose Goose Duck, where if you know you're good and you have safety, sometimes you just like throw a vote out there for fun. Like maybe it is
Yeah.
like to in case anything wonky happens, just have another name out there, or maybe it's just kind of like we gotta start feeding something for the next round, right? Like, oh, Owen got one
Mhm.
vote, like maybe you could have a conversation with him after. Maybe you could try to pin it on someone else. Maybe you could just have another name out there. Like, I think there's nothing wrong with just kind of throwing a little chaos out there for fun.
Oh, that's how I play. Yeah, maybe I'm just revealing how I play. I never skip in Goose Goose Duck. I know Puya's gonna like in my head. I never skip. You have a
Mike is
vote,
just
might as well
pure
use it.
chaos. Yeah, why not? Oh man. All right. Whew. Well, as I mentioned, let's talk about our game
Woo!
that we're going to play today. So, this is I guess now the official title. I think I've been calling it this for a while, but the devil's in the details. Okay. We are going to go through the episode. I'm going to ask you questions about things that happened all in this episode. Okay. All more subtle things that amused me pretty much, but also just some other questions about things that were going on. So I'm going to all the questions are multiple choice. However, what I'd like to do is, if you want to just try to straight up answer, you
Oh,
can do that. Okay.
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 However, if you choose to answer, you think you know the answer, you will get 2 points. But you can also say, no, 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 I want the multiple choice. You would get 1 point if you get it correct. If you do go for 2 points and you're wrong, then the other person has the opportunity to answer. Okay. So this is
Gotcha.
a go big or go home type situation.
I'm
And
not feeling good about my place in this game. This is gonna be hard.
Listen, you have the safe option if you need to take it, right? You get to pick which
Yep.
exactly.
table maze.
Exactly. You can do 1 point at a time. Okay. So, Mike, let's kick things off with you. And I'm going to do my best to keep everything straight. Okay. So, now this, as we've discussed and I've said multiple times, this was all about Gabler throwing Ellie's name out to throw Ellie's name out. How many times did Gabler say Ellie's name in this
Oh,
episode? Like,
yeah. If
he said the word Ellie.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take the multiple choice on this one,
Okay.
especially since it's not a closest without going over.
I hope
I
it's
can't get
like
exact.
12, 13, 14, 15.
Yeah. We'll see.
Well,
I don't know if it's more or less than the number of times that Joker was said in that Jeff Probst sketch.
Joker.
I'm going to go with just based on your recap less. So here are your 4 options: A, 6, B, 8, C, 10, or D, 12.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. So it's specifically not. Is it him saying Ellie's name or him saying Ellie went through my bag?
No, he said Ellie's name in any context.
Oh, well, okay. So we know that him saying I threw Ellie's name out because I wanted to throw Ellie's name out is 2. So that's
Yes.
automatically taken care of. So I feel like the
Yes.
shorter side, I'm going to eliminate from contention here. So it's between 10 and 12 for me. I'm going to go with, I'm going to say 10.
Okay. That is incorrect. He only said her name 6 times. So it was
Whoa.
Ellie went through my bag, throwing Ellie's name out to throw Ellie's name out, and then just a few times, because it was mostly like he doesn't actually talk. I mean, he's talking about her, but not actually saying her name. So yeah, the answer was actually 6.
Wow. I guess
Mm.
Gabler really had that idea of like throw the name out there. You don't even need to say it. Just
Exactly. Other
existing.
people will say her name.
Don't, Mike Gabler, you don't try too hard.
He just plants the seeds, okay, and reaps the reward.
Well, I was just like Gabler would more so like plant the seeds and then just stomp them in the ground.
And then
Wow.
play a shot in the dark. Okay. Well, Mary, speaking of that, this is your question. How many times was Ellie's name said total in
Oh
the
Lord.
episode? So this includes literally everyone. Jeff Probst is included in that, saying her name. So,
Oh,
like, for example,
okay.
in the narration of the challenges, Ellie, and all the times Gabler said it is also included. So it's more than 6, just as
More
an
than 6.
FYI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so 6
I
is added in there.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to need the multiple choice. I can tell you here, I'm looking at my notes. I just did a control F.
Oh,
I wrote Ellie's name down 19 times,
Okay.
but I don't know. Who
Is
knows
that
if that's
a
gonna help.
verbatim? Yeah.
Yeah.
It just copied the script of the episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me give you the multiple choice on this one. Is it A, 12, B, 24, C, 39, or D, 48?
that's that
Oh,
Joker number.
that's such a big range.
Yeah.
Oh man. I'm gonna go with the one that just was my instinct when I heard you list them off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with 24 because it was closest to my number.
I like the self-centered strategy. Unfortunately, it does
no.
not pay off here. It was 39. So
Oh,
it
that
was
was my other guess.
Aw.
We
6. You were
narrowed
right in
down
the
to
middle.
those
Well, we didn't
two.
get 39 days, but we got 39 mentions of Ellie's name.
39 Ellies. Now, if Ellie had as many confessionals as she had mentions, then Liana would have been a lot closer with her guess.
I know. Well, Mike would have been almost right on the money. Did you
Yeah,
see
I
the
had 43.
42? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it was 33 times mentioned by others and 6 times by Gabler. Add the together.
And
you
then
get
what,
39.
like 7 times by Jeff?
And then, yeah, well, because she did the puzzle. So there was a lot of like, and also
Oh,
reading
yeah.
the votes. A ton of them came from reading the votes.
Oh,
was
shoot.
gonna
I
say,
didn't
yeah,
even
so, yeah,
think
it's like
about that.
Yeah,
Back
it was
to
like
those ones.
one
yeah.
vote, Ellie. And then when he does the recaps, 2 votes Ellie, 2 votes James. So that added actually
Oh,
quite a bit.
unnecessary padding then, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It was about a third of them all came there.
Mm.
Mike, let's go back to you. All right, now we're going to talk about some stuff that happened in the episode, not just the words that were said. When Coco
Okay.
receives the tree mail to drop their buffs and pack their stuff, what does Ryan do with his buff before dropping it on the ground?
Oh, this man can do a lot of things with his buff. I would say make an alliance with it, but I don't know if that's an option. So give me the multiple choice. I need to get on the board before I really risk it.
All right. A, twirl it in the air like one of the the towels like this,
Yeah.
like this kind of thing.
You know the towels?
The towels, like this. Does he B, throw it in the air, C, throw it at Cassidy, or D, sniff it?
Just imagine being like, F you, Cassidy.
Ah!
Gio should be here instead of you. I'm gonna say I'm leaning towards sniffing it. But I'm also thinking like he may do a woo ride him cowboy because he is from Texas. We figured this out last episode, right? I'm gonna
Joker.
I'm gonna go with the Joker twirling it over his head.
All right. Should have gone with your other option. It was sniff it. Well, I assume sniff it because they're all dropping it and he takes his and he shoves it up to his nose. And he looks like he's sniffing it. So I went with sniff it, but he definitely didn't do this. He shoved his face in it. I don't know.
He wants to get that cocoa musk one more time before he moves on.
It amused me. Okay, so you both have 0 points. Mary, let's see if you can get on the board here.
Valid.
All right. In the immunity challenge, each tribe has to collect large boxes to make a staircase. Besides the Survivor 43 logo, what image is on the side of one of the boxes?
Ooh.
I have an initial thought, but I'm wondering if it's going to be wrong.
Ooh. Okay. Well, would you like to hear the multiple choice?
Yeah. Let me see if my thought is in the choices at least.
Okay. Is it A, a coconut, B, a tree with roots, C, ocean waves, or D, sack rock?
Ah, Sack Rock, I miss you.
I know.
Okay, I
So
thought it was
wrong.
going to be an octopus, so I'm glad I didn't guess that.
Okay.
I'm trying to visualize. Let's visualize. Visualize.
See
What
it.
was the third option?
Ocean waves. So you
Ocean
had
waves.
coconut, tree with roots, ocean waves, and sack rock.
I'm gonna go with tree with roots.
It is the most octopus-like out of all of them. And Mary,
Yeah.
that is correct. Yes.
Maybe that's why I
Oh.
thought it was an octopus.
Yes.
Why does it have roots attached?
Well, it's like the top and the bottom of the tree. So you see the tree, like, and then they kind of have like a sliver of the ground, and then you see the roots underneath.
Yeah,
So
It's an
it's
interesting
like
image to put. I mean, I
As
know we
you
know
know,
that
Mike, a game
Yeah.
of Survivor is like being a tree. You need to grow up, but you need to also plant your roots.
you need to grow up. That's what Survivor's all about.
I didn't know what it was. Because I was trying to zoom in on it, but I couldn't get a really good picture of it. You could just see what it was from afar. It felt like they were promoting something. Like, I don't know, like the
Like it was branding.
charity.
The real
I
love
don't
boat.
know, like the charity for the deforestation of Fiji or something like
Hmm.
that. You know, like
Well,
I
yeah,
don't
it's
know.
interesting because I guess one reason why I'm confused about that is like it makes sense. The tribes are named after trees, but at the same time, I don't know if you'd print a tree on the side of it. I'm with Mary. I think the octopus would make a lot more sense.
Yeah. I
Well, it
don't
makes
know.
about as much sense as having the octopus on the logo.
You wait. He's out there. He's waiting.
Okay, Mike, let's see if you can get on the board here. So you have to guess which one of these quotes did Jeff not say during his challenge commentary. Okay,
Okay,
so a little bit of a
okay.
casuals corner style question in here.
Hmm.
So these are your 4 options. A, it's the biggest ramp in Survivor history. B, upside down like Spider-Man. C, Carla bleeding in pain. D, and now it's tougher to climb with the mud skids.
I'm pretty sure it's D. I know that Jeff said something about like, it's Survivor when blood's on it, which I guess there were 2 seasons that blood was in the title. I don't think he talked about the mud skids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I don't know.
With their dirty drawers, how are they going to grab onto it?
If James's pants fell off, then maybe that would have been a problem.
Can Carla grab on to Ryan's dookie stained pants?
Oh no, not blood and dookie.
But yeah, I don't know why they decided to build the biggest ramp in Survivor history.
I don't know. It felt like something from American Ninja Warrior where they
Warp
have
wall.
that. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It just yeah, that was a choice. But they had a net at the top, so I guess it was a little bit easier to climb. Okay, Mary, we're all tied up. Let's go back to you. In the immunity challenge, what does James think the puzzle spells before Cassidy shushes him? So James shouts out an
Ooh.
idea of what he thinks is the puzzle. Okay.
Reward to fix wishing.
Yes.
I
it's definitely
remember
that.
I remember thinking, because when he had shouted it out, I thought that was right. So I remember thinking, I feel like I'll recognize it if I hear
Okay.
the multiple choice.
All right. Is it A, earn your vote? Is it B, earn your spot? Is it C,
Oh.
earn your place? Or is it D, earn your buff?
Oh, I knew it was going to be earn your something, so that didn't help. Yeah, because I thought it was earn your merge, and then that was wrong, and I was like, oh,
Earn
never
your
mind.
merge.
Because I was watching that, I'm like, I thought it was like earn your something at the merge.
What
Anyway,
was the puzzle again? It was like earn your merge one step at a time or something
it was
like
like
that.
you always need to earn your.
What? No,
I don't
no.
know. What was it?
I
It was
don't
like-
know.
Be sure to drink your Ovaltine.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yes.
Commercial.
I'm gonna go with earn your spot.
It was, in fact, earn your place, which just earn your place made me laugh. So, unfortunately, no, Mary, that's not a point for you, but don't worry, you're still all tied up. We've got a couple questions left for each of you. Okay, well, let's move on. Let's talk about the merge feast. So, Mike, what does Noelle say before eating a breadstick at the merge feast?
Oh, I feel like I know what it is, but I'm gonna be safe and go with the multiple choice.
Okay, is it A, I'm so hungry? B, breadsticks? C, I'm going to put this all in my mouth? Or D, what the hell is this?
It's D. I knew it was. I thought it was what are those? But yeah, I definitely
What are
noted the
those?
fact that Noelle looked at a breadstick and said, "What is that?"
Yeah, what the hell is this? And then she just takes a bite out of it.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
very odd. Like, I don't think this is a Keith Nail. I've never been to a spa before, only with
Mhm.
Joker. But I think that, by the way, we probably have now reached the number of times that Joker was said in that stupid sketch, the number of times we said it. But yeah, it was very odd to me that Noelle, either like in her delirium, perhaps just looked at a breadstick, or maybe she just used to like the Olive Garden brand of breadsticks,
Mhm.
right? The like, oh, this is not soft, this is not
Mhm.
squishy, so therefore I don't know if it's a breadstick.
Yeah, look long and crunchy. This particular breadstick. Mary, we're going back to you. Still talking about the merge feast. How does Gabler open his beer at the merge feast?
God, bashes it against his head until it opens.
Classic Gabler
Oh
move.
no. How does he open his beer?
Yes.
Hopefully like a human being. Okay, I don't know. Give me the options.
All right. A, he uses a bottle opener. B, Carla opens it for him. C, he pops the cap off on the table. Or D, it's a twist off. So he just twists it off.
Do they make twist off beers?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Mary, you
Oh, I
haven't had
thought that was
nearly. You
like
haven't
a
had
child proofing thing. Like you can't have
for
this beer
beer.
unless you have a beer opener. I thought twist off was only on like soda.
Not a beer opener.
No, you haven't had. Clearly, you haven't had enough cheap beer in your life, Mary, to
No,
know that there are
clearly
many
not.
twist off beers.
Oh my gosh, only the most bougie beer. I'm down between
Ooh.
two, which means they're probably both wrong.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Carla opens it and hands it to him.
Okay. No, that is incorrect. He pops the cap off on the table. Is
That
one
was
of
the
your
other
two?
one I was down between. It keeps
Ah.
happening. I just thought because I remembered Carla being like, "Who wants a beer? Anybody want a
Mhm.
beer?" And I thought maybe she just like opened a bunch and passed
Mm.
them out.
And then Noelle
Yeah,
points
he
at the
like
cap
does
and
the
says, "What the hell is that?"
what the hell is that? No, he pops it off on the table. I
I
think.
do like the idea, because we talked about this back in episode 1, right, when Gabler talked about his children hatching that he may be an alien, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that has sort of come back to fruition if he's like, how do humans open their beers?
Yeah.
Bash it on the table.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who enjoyed beverages, especially a lot in college, that was the classic. It was like we had cheap tables, and you just like, and they all had chip marks on the edge of the table because that was how we would always open beers. But
Do you remember the dad sandals where they would have like the bottle
yes,
opener on the
in
bottom?
yes,
Oh, yeah.
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 I had friends. Yeah, those. I had friends who had rings, where it
I
was
think
like
about those a lot.
on the bottom. Yeah, yeah. What, the sandals?
Yeah, just how they'd be so convenient. We should have that
That's-
on the bottom of every
I think
shoe.
you need like we need mom sandals with like a wine screw on it.
Yeah.
Swiss Army shoes. I got a bunch of tools
Yes.
down there. Yeah.
Not enough weapons in shoes, in my opinion.
You know how Crocs they've got all those holes, right? And then they have the little decorations that you
Yeah.
can
Yep.
stick like it. Okay, so it's that, but for tools. So you got a knife, you got a bottle opener, you got a nail file, a
Yep.
lockpick, you
Nothing
can
says
do that.
safety like you walking around with several sharp instruments on your feet facing out at all times.
That is correct. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, Mike, I think you could. Well, no, we have the 2-point option. So, Mike, let's see if you can get this one correct. Still Gabler, still merge feast. What does Gabler cheers with at the merge feast? So they all go cheers and they all raise something in the air. What does Gabler raise?
His penis. No, I will go with.
No, there's no indecent exposure here. Okay.
Just imagine. Like,
No, I don't want to imagine.
Don't say his penis and then imagine that. No.
No.
ta-da!
Okay, moving on from that, would you like the multiple choice?
Please.
Okay. All right. Does he cheers his beer, a glass with orange liquid in it, a watermelon, or the top of a pineapple?
So he
The
could, that
top.
is to imply that he cuts the pineapple in half and says, "Aha! This is what the humans eat." Yes.
Classic Gabler move.
He'd eat the banana with the peel on. No, I'm pretty sure because I also made note of this. He had some sort of odd orange drink in his glass, so I'm gonna go with B.
Okay. No, it was the top of the pineapple. That's what he cheerses with. And it's just the green, like the point green.
What?
Yes, exactly. Janine.
This man is inhuman.
Yeah, because it was on it's like literally the tippy top of the pineapple, like no pineapple meat.
But wait, so is it to imply that he cut up the pineapple and was like, oh God, they're calling cheers. Here you go.
I don't know, maybe it was like garnish, like decoration for the table, and then, like on the fruit plate or whatever, and then he just lifted it up and decided to cheers with it, but he obviously had a beer, so I don't know.
I definitely cheersed with something weird recently, like salad dressing or something. It was like I didn't have a drink or I'd already
He
drank my
just-
drink, but there was like a thing on the table. And so I did that. But then I thought afterward, I'm like, I feel like cheersing because some people are like, oh, you have to take a sip after you cheers because then it's bad luck. Should you have to consume a little bit of whatever it was that you chose to hold? Like, should he have eaten some of the pineapple top?
Just
It's
like
a good
one of the
question.
leaves.
I always think about this when it comes to weddings, right? Because they
Mhm.
usually do the best man, maid of honor speeches one right after the other. And I get very confused as to like, okay, like, so I have to take like multiple sips in a row.
Yes.
It's a
Mm.
good question, Mary. So like, if you had cheers with the salad dressing, would you have to like take a mouthful of ranch
Yeah, that's what I
every
was
time someone
wondering.
gave a speech?
I
Yes.
didn't. And now I'm wondering if maybe whatever we were cheersing didn't work out. It's
Very,
like bad karma.
bad
Oh,
luck.
shoot,
Yeah,
I know.
that's tough. Well, Janine has a watermelon. Noelle has like a loaf of bread. Everyone else has
What the hell is
drinks.
this?
And then I don't know. At least those are things they could, more easily consume. Whereas Gabler's about to get a load of fiber if he takes a bite out of that pineapple top.
Wait, but someone had a glass of orange drink, I thought.
Yeah, that is Dwight. So Dwight has
Ah.
a glass of something orange. Carla's is like brownish, and then Jesse is clear, and James has an actual beer bottle. So that's what the cheers
Interesting.
was
Yeah, I
with.
wonder. Wait, did they have like orange soda on the island? And
I
Dwight was
don't
the only
know,
one
or
that
orange
partook?
juice maybe.
Sun kissed.
So, yeah, some Tang.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We've got Tang, the top halves of pineapples.
and Doritos. All right, final question for Mary. And if you do tie, I do have a tiebreaker, so we can move to
Oh.
that. But let's see. All right, at Tribal Council, skipping all the way to Tribal, James tells Jeff that his vote tonight is him just trying to not flunk out of what?
The tribe? No, I'm not guessing.
I was gonna say,
Flunk.
you could get the multiple choice options and
Yeah.
tie at least. You
Yeah,
don't
I'm
have
gonna
to
get
for
the
two.
multiple choice
Okay.
options.
Did he say flunk out of school? A, school. B, preschool. C, kindergarten. We'll talk about that. D, primary school.
So it was very specific types of school that he might have been flunking
Yeah, I
out
don't know
of.
what
Yes.
else we would flunk out of.
Preschool.
He doesn't want to flunk out of it.
So hold on. It's preschool, school, kindergarten,
And primary school.
and primary school.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know why you'd have this on the list unless it was. I'm gonna go with primary school. I don't know.
It was C, kindergarten.
Ah,
Sorry, Mary.
Wow,
Unfortunately.
kind of rude for James to compare. Like, yeah, we're all in kindergarten right now, and some people are like, 10 times the age you were in kindergarten at.
He was like, look, I just don't want to flunk out of like my vote, simple. I don't want to flunk out of kindergarten, which by the way, kindergarten,
Mhm.
is it supposed to be kindergarten? Is that how you were supposed to pronounce it? It's a German word, right? Kindergarten.
Yeah, it
Garden?
means the kids in the garden.
Kindergarten. Not
Yeah.
garden. It's spelled
Yeah.
with a T, not a D.
I think it's like a soft T.
Kindergarten.
yeah, it's like one of those T's that you pronounce like it's a D. You know what I'm
Ugh.
talking about.
Okay. Well, I was today years old when I found out that kindergarten was, yesterday years old. Kindergarten was spelled with a T, not a D. I don't know why in my brain. I was like, yeah,
Oh no, actually,
kindergarten.
yeah. I made a stupid joke, but I was indeed correct. Like, it's kindergarten because like it's described as the children are the plants and the teachers are the gardeners.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Well, German is like that, so that makes sense. Kindergarten. How?
Yeah.
Someone tell me how to say it. Which one of the two?
I
Kindergarten.
say kindergarten. Like, I think
Kindergarten.
it's
I don't. I was gonna say I don't think I pronounce either a T or a D. I
What
think
do
I
you
pronounce
say?
it almost like there's nothing.
W.
Okay, but then you just okay.
Hold on,
Kindergarten?
wait.
Say the word. Say the word. Don't think too much. Just say it.
Like kindergarten.
Kindergarten.
I guess that's
There's
more of a
garden.
D, but it's like
There's
I'm not saying
yeah.
garden. I'm
There's
not
a
saying
hint of a
garden.
garden in there.
Kindergarten.
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 Garden.
Kindergarten. Joker.
Kindergarten.
The Joker. Kindergarten.
Kindergarten. All right, great. Well, thanks for helping me or not figure that out. Congratulations, Mike. With a score of 1, you were the winner of this challenge game.
Wow.
Whatever, Mary, a valiant
Good for you.
effort, all the same.
Yeah.
But
Well,
you did flunk out of kindergarten with
You
this
I
did.
did.
question.
I
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Okay, the devil's in the details, but I have a very, very short segment that I haven't decided if it's a game or if it's
Okay,
just a
please.
segment.
Yeah, let's
I'm
do
gonna
it.
call this Kwaitkowski Corner. So I watched this episode of Survivor live with my brother who is visiting from Seattle, and he's like most Kwaitkowskis other than me, like a casual fan, but a firm fan, watched every season, but that's about it. He'll probably listen to this podcast. So Dave, you're great. Anyway, but he doesn't know this, but I was writing down things he was saying while we were watching the episode.
Yeah, this is my favorite.
And
Okay.
He was always like, what would you possibly be taking notes about at this time? And I was like, oh, I don't know, just like the things that are happening, and I was writing down what he said. So he made some interesting comparisons. He also just said a lot of funny things. So like, I'm going to ask you, in the middle of the challenge, he shouted out to me, he was like, oh, by the way, and told me a different TV show that he had got caught up on. Do you any guesses to what that other TV show might have been? That he
So it's
told
not
me.
related to Survivor whatsoever.
Not really. Basically, I was funny because it was like intensely in the challenge, and he was like, "Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I finished whatever this other TV show."
Okay, well, I'm trying to think if there was like some small connection. That
Nope,
he
there
thought
was
of.
no connection.
Okay,
There's
all right,
no
so we're talking
connection.
something totally wildly
It
different.
was just completely different, but I thought it was funny that he mentioned it, like not on commercial break. Like this was like.
Just
by the
totally
way,
random.
while we're watching
While we're
Carla's
watching
Bloody
this,
Hand.
Did you know that I got up on this other show? I will say it's related to me, but that was it.
Riverdale.
No, he's like, oh, by the way, I finished Love is Blind today.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, thanks, Dave. Thanks for that.
All right, good update.
He made multiple comparisons during the challenge to other things.
Okay.
Multiple times he said, this challenge looks like blank. I had said at one point, this challenge is basically American Ninja Warrior when they were going up the warped wall. But when he saw the puzzle, he immediately said, oh, this challenge looks like blank.
Is it that it looks like
I will tell you, it's a school subject.
Spelling bee. Spelling.
Because they're honeycombs, they're hexagons.
Yeah, it had to do with the honeycombs shape of the words, but it
Math,
didn't have
geometry.
He said chemistry. This challenge.
Oh yeah, because I guess you're like mapping out right,
like a benzene ring. Like
yes. And this one might be a little more obscure unless you're a big gamer. But when it got to the portion when they were pushing the like sled full of blocks, he was like, "Oh, this challenge looks like something from," and then a video game name.
Horizon Zero Dawn?
Minecraft?
He had said Overwatch because there's parts where you have to push a payload, and it looked a lot like that. It was like a sled.
Is that what Jeff's going to be playing on his gaming channel next week?
Yeah, he's going to be doing that. He was also very surprised halfway through the challenge. He went, "Wait, so Noelle isn't even participating?" I was like, yes. So that was what
we had a whole commercial break around the rock draw, and he still didn't know.
Yeah. And then in terms of clothing, he made 3 comments. One was about particularly buffs. He thought it was very interesting at Tribal Council that he's like, it's so interesting that so many people are wearing their buffs in this way.
Around the top of their head.
Yeah. I thought that was the most basic way to wear a buff, but apparently to him it was he's like, no, it's like normally around your hand or like around your neck.
Your hand.
No, your
unless your buff looks like a Band-Aid. Like it doesn't make any sense to wear around. Like maybe Carla would have it on.
I think 43 seasons in, we think that we've pretty much came up with every way to wear a buff, but he was shocked that so many people had it on their heads.
So the reason I do remember that is because Gabler was wearing it that way, and I don't know why. It was like that plus the beard that really stood out to me is like, okay, yeah, this is a fashion choice.
He said that one person's clothing looked like Neapolitan ice cream. I don't know if any of you caught that.
Owen's sweatshirt, the one with the
Yeah.
stripes on it.
Yeah,
Oh,
which I really liked because I was talking about how much I liked that sweatshirt, and he was like, "Yeah, it's like Neapolitan ice cream. It's great." And then the last one that I thought was great was okay. So it was not. It was I'm trying to figure out how I want to ask this question. I'll say okay, so it was Ellie's clothing, but not the very Morton Salt Girl like yellow jacket that she was wearing. But it was that there were in the confessionals with Ellie. She was wearing a particular outfit that he thought reminded him of a movie. And after he said it, I was like, "Oh yes, it does," but I didn't know. And it's particular clothing in a movie that is significant because it's made out of curtains.
Is it The
Gone
Sound of
with the
Music
Wind.
when
Yeah, he
Maria
was
von
like,
Trapp makes the
"No."
dresses?
He's like, "She looks exactly like The Sound of Music when they make them out of drapes." That's what he said. Anyway, so I thought those were
Wow.
good comments from Gabe that were happening throughout.
Yeah.
Didn't
so,
comment that much on the the strategy, but made a lot of other comments.
I mean, these are the more important things, to be honest. Like,
and the tribe ended up saying to Ellie, "So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye."
yeah,
Exactly. Or as we say in Boston, see you later.
We had to get one Boston Rob reference in there. We were right at the tail end of the podcast.
It had been too long. I needed to squeeze one in.
Well, Mary, we're happy that we were able to squeeze you in to bring you on to the B&B. Always fantastic, as always, to have you on. You mentioned Love is Blind. I feel like I made like a Love is Blind side joke before, but I'll make it again for the second time just to re-jog everyone's memories. So yeah, talk a bit about that coverage and anything else you have going on in the podcast sphere.
Yeah, I feel like it's been very busy in October, but in terms of podcasts, I've been mostly doing the few Survivor coverage things that you've talked about, and Love is Blind, which we've released 3 podcasts for so far. We had our most recent one was on the second drop from Netflix, and that's myself and Asia and Sasha came on that one as well. So that was a really fun, very long, like 2.5 hour long podcast. But we talked about everything from the second batch of episodes that were released from Love is Blind. If you haven't caught up on Love is Blind, like my brother, go do that and then listen to the podcast.
And then yell in the middle of challenges that you've caught up on it.
Yes, caught up now. Yeah. So that's mostly it for podcasting. But if you want to see anything else I'm doing, you can follow me everywhere at Frail Mary.
Yeah. So Love is Blind. What was the amount of episodes in the second batch?
So there were 3. So we've so far had 7 episodes out. So 5, 6, and 7.
Okay, so it's not the mole style of 5, 3, and 2 of just like we'll put out half the season at once.
No, not quite that. And I've just started watching The Mole. So I'm like, every time I get to a podcast where I hear people start talking about The Mole, I'm like, skip. No, wait, hold on. No spoilers. I haven't got there yet. Yeah.
Ooh,
and I don't know how many I've seen because the episodes like they keep doing like to be continued.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think I've seen like 3 or 4, but I don't really know. It might be more than that.
You're watching it the way they want you to watch it, to binge it all at once. So you just get lost in the sauce, as it were.
Yep, pretty much. So I figure I'll watch the whole thing and then listen to the podcast.
Okay, yeah, smart.
All right, Liana, what do you have happening? Speaking of concealed identities.
Yes, well, Masked Singer is still on television, I think. This week, we might not have an episode because of baseball, but then they're going to air an extra episode on Sunday, but then it might be a double header on Sunday if baseball happens on Wednesday. So it's just a little bit of a complete total mess over there. But you know what? We're in it for the ride. We're having a great time seeing people get unmasked week after week. We got essentially 2 people getting unmasked every single episode. So it's really been a whirlwind of celebrities or people who are sort of celebrities, but very enjoyable all the same.
All right.
Oh, and you can follow me on Twitter at Liana RHAP. There.
Yes, you can follow me at a Mike Bloom type. Of course, check out my interview with Ellie that I did at parade.com this past week. Really fun. Ellie was really fantastic. Got into everything that happened this past round, as well as a lot of stuff in the pre-merge. She got into, her exact rationale behind thinking that Gabler wouldn't believe that his idol was valid. All of her comments about Sammy, going back to Mariah, the reason why she ended up getting rid of her over someone like Owen. So a lot of really interesting and great stuff from Ellie. Also did Amazing Race podcast this week, both with Jess and Rob, as well as my exit interview with the team that was quote unquote eliminated / removed from the show due to a positive COVID test. which is interesting. Do we think we'll ever get this happening in the new era of Survivor, or do you think they're just like so much in the bubble that it'll never happen on the show?
I think with Survivor, there's so much in the bubble, right? I
Yeah.
mean, they're literally on an island and they're not going anywhere. They're not flying anywhere. They're not, So I think with Survivor, we'll be okay.
Do you think it happened on Big Brother, Mary, considering like how many crew members are cycling in and out?
That would be more possible, but I don't know what precautions they're putting into, like, maybe for all we know, the crew people are, like, still wearing gloves and masks and stuff the whole time, so I'm not sure, but, yeah, I mean, with the Survivor thing, if that ever happened, that's another reason to do the, individual earning the merge where you have to sleep separately.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like a Big Brother challenge, right? Like one at a time, you step into your station, and whoever has the fastest time ended up going through.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the likelihood of COVID, like a COVID poll, is like Survivor very low, Big Brother also pretty low, big gap, Amazing Race. You know what I mean? So it's like it's not surprising to me.
Big gap, real Love Boat.
Yeah, I mean cruise ships, petri dishes. Come on.
Well, yeah, considering that there may have been one that have already happened, and yeah, I should also mention programming announcement. Yeah. RIP Real Love Boat, or at least Real Love Boat has shipped off to another network. So for you fans that, much like Peridium talked about last week, much like Mary, things happened to her friends back in the day, just kind of stares off into the void for an hour until the Amazing Race comes on. Now you don't need to do that. Amazing Race is now going to come on back at 9 right after Survivor.
And
yeah.
And that was something where my mom was talking to me when she was here recently. She was like reading Twitter and she's like, "Oh, I see that Amazing Race is moving to 9:00." I don't think she knew when it was prior to that. I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's great because it was at 10:00." And then I was going to explain the whole Real Love Boat thing, and I was like, "Who needs it?" Yep,
not.
it's moved.
Save yourself a conversation.
Paramount Plus, right?
Yeah, so I think they're doing essentially, if for those OGs out there watched Pirate Master, where essentially they started airing on CBS and super low ratings had them dump all of them onto a site called InnerTube, which was the previous CBS kind of offload streaming service. So that is what they're doing here, where I think obviously the rest of the season's in the can. They're just going to keep airing the rest of it on Paramount Plus. So if you're into more Love Boat coverage, or if you just want to listen to the podcast, feel free to check that out. But yeah, Amazing Race next week. Post-show recaps. Just finished up coverage of House of the Dragon. Mary, I know I had you on a couple weeks ago to talk about it. Did you like the ending of House of the Dragon?
I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, so, interesting.
Don't tell me. Probably. I don't know.
I'm excited for you to yell in the middle of next week's episode of the couch. I caught up on House of the Dragon.
I finished House of the Dragon. Yeah, I caught up.
I was so on top of it until after the podcast that I was like, I'll just relax and watch the last two together. I've been meaning to. I've been basically scheduling my life minute by minute, so it's great.
Listen, you're doing things like modern day Survivor, right? Taking it one day at a time. Don't look too far ahead. Just smash a beer bottle on the table and hope for the best.
Exactly. Lift your pineapple tops in the air. Throw your pants across the street.
That's oftentimes what leads to success.
All of these things were said today.
So yeah, I did that with Grace. Going to be doing a couple of other wrap-up podcasts for that as well. Last thing I want to plug is actually something for all three of us. Because hey, this coming week, we're doing something in person. There's going to be a live Know-It-Alls event in Washington, D.C. A capital idea, methinks. And a bunch of us are going to be there, including all three of us are going to be there. Some other fun people. Shane and Gus is going all the way from Australia to go. So you have no excuse not to come. I know that I believe it's sold out, but there is a wait list happening. Yeah, I know. I just said you have no excuse.
You have no excuse. There's no tickets. No excuse.
I think if you know someone who can come, like have them stand on your shoulders with a big trench coat. That's worked every time. So feel free to do that. But yeah, if you're in the area and you have tickets, we'll be around. Look forward to hopefully meeting some people out there or finding out what television you're catching up on in the middle of challenges as well. I totally forgot. Last thing, Mary, charity, cause that you want to plug. Anything you want to highlight?
Yeah. So part of the reason I've been so busy and not on as many podcasts is October is the month where I race direct multiple running events. And so something that it made me think about was one of the races that we do is on something in Virginia that's called the Capitol Trail, which is a paved trail for bikers and runners and pedestrians that goes all the way from my city of Richmond to Jamestown. So it's like a 52-mile trail. And it's a non-profit organization, the Virginia Capitol Trail Foundation, that keeps up with it. And so one thing is like they really, really promote getting outside, being active, or just exploring your city in a way that doesn't use like vehicular means, unless it's a bike. So bikes, roller skates, all good, but less pollution in that way. So something I was just thinking about was to look up, if you're wherever you may live, if your place has like a local, whether it be like a park nonprofit or something else that try to encourages people to go outside and enjoy the outdoors.
Yeah, because
So a little more local.
Yeah, I know. I always like the local causes, and
Mhm.
the weather is cooling down a bit, but I think it's still in like a fairly good temperature.
Yeah.
That I think it
Yeah.
also makes sense to like hop on a bike and pedal your way through these beautiful landscapes that we exist here on the East Coast in.
I have one update. I was
Ooh.
just perusing the Survivor subreddit, and I have some information about the potential reason why Jeff Probst was on SNL.
Oh.
So the post from user Boston Robin 61 that was like, oh look, Jeff was on SNL, and the top comment from Nigel Straw was, the host tonight is Jack Harlow, and he's a huge Survivor fan.
Yes, I recall
So
this. Right, that he like FaceTimed Jack Harlow after he won an award.
yes. So Jeff was assumed Jeff was invited to be a guest to the oh wait. No. Hold on. I misread it. So Jack Harlow was invited to the island, to Fiji, during filming. So their theory is that this is him returning the favor to Jeff, of then pulling Jeff onto SNL. But
So this is interesting because, like, yes, Jack Harlow could be invited, but like, did he drop in the middle of the season? Did he do preseason stuff? Should I
It's
have
a
asked
leak.
Jack Harlow to do my interviews for me?
I just like the idea of Jack Harlow like dropping spoilers on the internet. I was like, guess what I know, guys.
I like the idea that you can just, it's one thing for Jeff to invite him onto the show where it's like, hey, this is the show I'm a producer of. But Jack Harlow, he's just the guest on Saturday Night Live. And he's like, yeah, I'll invite you. It's like inviting you to a friend's party. You know,
Yeah.
this isn't
He's
really
my
my thing.
My
He's my
plus one. He'll
Yeah,
have
it's
the
interesting.
chicken.
Well, because I don't know if there are any Survivor fans in the cast, right? So they just like, hi, who
Mm.
are you, high-haired dimple man?
Yeah, all right, sure. This random guy is that's fine.
Yeah, especially because, like, again, I feel like Survivor hit its like general peak popularity back in 2000. That like maybe it would make more sense back then. Now it's like, oh yeah, you were popular like 20 years ago, and now
That
you're doing
show's
this.
still on.
I would not be surprised if at least one cast member asked it. But interesting factoid. Yeah, I totally forgot about, because I remember the Jack Harlow FaceTime thing, but I totally did not put two and two together.
Yep, that's the guess.
All right,
Wow.
so after we have our time in DC, of course, Liana and I will return with the B&B for episode 7. Now things are fully merged. Seems like the knives are out, much like they would be on your Crocs, and we shall see what happens from that. Next time out, Chappelle is going to join us to, I'm sure, break down a lot of malarkey continuing to happen on Survivor 43. Thank you all so much for listening. If you have any game ideas, you can suggest them to us. Email us, rhapbnb@gmail.com. Hashtag RHAPB&B. You could tell us in person if you want to next week. I'll try to write it down, but I'm incredibly grateful to like run into any listeners and fans, because like sometimes I feel like we're kind of much like, again, Mary's friends after she leaves their house, talking into a void from a certain perspective, and it's very fun to meet the people that are putting our mellifluous voices into their earbuds. So if you have any stuff, feel free to let us know in any medium that you want to. Special thanks to Scott St. Pierre for editing everything behind the scenes, and Will from America for his fantastic theme song. Next week, Liana and I will be back with Chappelle to recap episode 7 of Survivor 43. Until then, we'll check you out at your next stay.